Okay, I recently inherited a Sony Xperia E1 Android phone, and I thought I'd load it up with some free games that I could play offline. And here's a list of 43 that I found. Now, all of these games play offline with no ads running. So if you play them online, you're going to get ads. But once you're offline, you're fine. So we'll start. Aries Peg Solitaire by Aries Microvision Limited. It's 29 megs. It's based on a wooden puzzle game in which you have to jump over pegs and leave just one peg left. There's a variety of different layouts. It's pretty fun. Next is Atlantis 2600 by Xalopex. It's 38 megs. It's a remake of the old Atlantis game for the Intellivision and Atari 2600. It's a pretty accurate representation. Next is Asteroids 2 by Barbarian Studios. It's 14 megs. It's a remake of Asteroids. That's pretty fair. Next is Barmy Biplane by RTW Productions. It's 18 megs. It's basically a Flappy Bird ripoff. But what's nice about this one is it's incredibly difficult. You'll be lucky if you get through five posts, let alone 20 or 30 like you can do on Flappy Bird. Next is Blackjack Star, free by IntelliFactor. It's 3 megs. It's just a nice, simple blackjack game. You can have up to $1,000 and you can bet up to $100 per wager. Next is Bocce 3D, online sports game by Giraffe Games Limited. It's 67 megs. It's a bocce ball game. It's laid out in seasons where you have to progress, but you don't have to. You can just play, one game over and over again. It's well done. Next is Boom Shine by Bantam Bites. This is a remake of a game I think on iOS originally. The idea is that you have a bunch of these colored dots floating around, and once you tap on one, it expands, and you have to try and have the other dots collide in before it collapses. Next is Breakout Challenge by Computer Time CO. It's 8 megs. It's a nice, decent Arkanoid Breakout clone. The nice thing about this one is the paddle is raised up so that you're not hitting the buttons on the bottom of the screen, like a lot of these games. Next is Chess by Chess Prince. It's 3 megs. It's a nice, simple chess game. There's 2 views, the 3D view and the overhead view, which I prefer. Next is Depth Charge by RTW Productions. It's 19 megs. You control a little boat at the top. You can use tilt controls or arrows, and you have to try and drop bombs on the submarines underneath of you. It's the remake of an old game from about 20 years ago. Next is Checkers by Lucas Octaba. It's 7 megs. Although when you install it, it shows up as droughts, however it's pronounced. It's a nice simple game. You can have the option of what rules you want. So if you want the mandatory jump or the optional jump. Next is 4 in a Row King by Mobarix. It's 18 megs. It's an awesome version of Connect 4. I read some the online comments saying that it cheats. It doesn't cheat. People just probably aren't very good at it. It's an amazing game. Next is Free to Ski by 320 Software. It's 3 megs. It's again a remake. Very simple, fun game. All you got to do is steer left or right and see how far down the mountain you can get. Next is Retro Jumping Frog by Classic Mania Games. It's 7 megs. It's just basically a Frogger ripoff. There is a paid version without ads, but when you run this offline, there's no ads. Next is Galaxia Classic 80s Arcade Space Shooter by Gaz Zapper Games. It's 16 megs. It's a Galaxian inspired game. That's pretty good. Although it doesn't record your high score. So if you want to record your high score, you'll either have to use a pen and a paper or a notepad program on your phone. Next is Gold Miner Classic by Senspark. It's 62 megs. This is an old Flash game. When you play it offline, no ads at all. When you go online, it tries to connect and update and send you notices, but just play it offline or it's fine. Next is Just Risk It by Sam Baird. It's 17 megs. It's a version of Risk. It's single screen. I think it's very nice. Next is Minesweeper by Dev Null. It's 13 megs. Even though the store says it contains ads, it doesn't. It's just a nice, simple, free version of Minesweeper. Next is Mini Golf 2D by K20 Game Labs or Game Lab. It's 46 megs. All you have to do is try and get the golf ball in the pin, and you have a certain amount of time. So you just angle your shot and release. You get coins, and then you can unlock different areas. The space one at the end is neat because the gravity isn't like it is in the other maps. I think this is an excellent game. Next is N-Min's Morris by Akam Dobler. It's 3 megs. It's an old Roman game. If you've never tried it, you should check it out. The idea is to try and capture your opponent's pieces. A very fun game. Next is Numbers Game by Keela. It's 4 megs. The idea is you try and match numbers or get numbers in a combination of 10, and then you scratch them off and you go from there. Very neat. Next is Octopus by Omja. It's 53 megs. It's a remake of an old Nintendo Game & Watch game. I'm not sure why the size is so much. This is basically all it is. You just one screen and you have to send your divers down to the treasure chest to try and get coins. Next is Pac-Man Classic by Arcade Classic Maze. It's 13 megs. It's a Pac-Man ripoff that's actually quite good. There's 3 levels of control, or 3 ways to control: virtual stick, or direction, or swipe. For what it is, it's very good. Next is Paco Car Chase Simulator by Treeman Games. It's 76 megs. This is one of the best Android games I've ever played. There's a variety of maps that you unlock by getting points. The idea is that you control a car. You don't control the speed. You just go left or right. And you have to see how long you can avoid getting hit by the cops or hitting something else. There's this view, and there's also a 3D view. Super fun. Next is Pinball Flipper Classic 11-in-1 by Classic Arcade Games at 68 megs. It's a pinball game with a variety of tables. It's not going to win any prizes for looks, but it's a pretty fun, functional pinball game. Next is Pong Classic Table Tennis by Zapper Games. It's 8 megs. It's the best version of Pong that I've found so far. Very simple. You can pick what side you want. The controllers are far enough away from the edge of the screen. The paddles control nice. Next is Retro Arcade Invaders Space Shooter by Classic Mania Games. It's 8 megs. It's just a sort of Galaxian Galaga type game. It's okay. Next is Retro Games by E. Schultz. It's 6 megs. It's 2 games in one. It's got a Tetris game, which is quite nice, and a snake game. The snake game is not that great, but the Tetris game is well done. Next is River Raid HD by High Games. It's 27 megs. It's a remake of an old Atari 2600 game. It's got tilt control. It's really well made. Next is Rolling Ball by Simple Apps. It's 6 megs. The idea is that you try and tilt your device to get these balls in a hole. There's 2 types of games. There's that one, and then there's a labyrinth one. Next is Sea Battle by Byril. It's 21 megs. It's basically a battleship ripoff. I like the art style, and I also like the fact that you can have a nuclear bomb, which is pretty sweet. There's a second one, and it's fine too, but I only had space for one, so this is the one I kept. Next is Simon Says Memory Game by Hackman. It's 8 megs. It's Simon. You try and duplicate a musical pattern. The nice thing is that it tells you how many notes in you are, and it keeps track of your high score. Next is Solitaire by Most Games. It's 9 megs. There's a ton of Solitaire games, but this one, small in size, clean, I liked it. Next is Classic Invaders Space Shooter Plasma Invaders by Zapper Games. It's 30 megs. It's basically a ripoff of Space Invaders. Now this game takes a while to load sometimes, but it does work. Next is Stack by Ketchup. It's 80 megs. This is one of the better puzzle games I've played. I'm not sure why the size is so high, but what can you do? The idea is that you have this piece that goes back and forth. You press the button and you try and line it up so your tower goes up, and if you miss, your blocks get smaller and smaller. Next is Stackin' Wits by Thojo. It's 1 meg. It's the closest thing I found to a Dice Wars game. Dice Wars was a old Flash game, and I think it's on iOS right now. It's sort of a Risk type game with simple rules. Sometimes the screen, I would assume it looks better on a tablet, but it's playable on a phone. The next is Sunny Day Sky by Original. It's 60 megs. Again, this is an old Flash game. The idea is that you're just trying to get your little teddy bear as far as you can down the road. You press a button, his umbrella opens up and he floats along, and you try not to crash or get hit by a bird. Next is Teeter Pro by Fezrix. It's 8 megs. It's a tilt-based game. You just try and get the ball in the hole. Next is the Othello by Unbalanced Corporation. It's 41 megs. It's a reverse Othello game. Probably one of the best I've played. There's a level 30. It takes a little while, and I've yet to beat it. So if you want a challenge, here you go. Next is 2048 by Andro Baby. It's 2 megs. It's a puzzle game where you get numbers to combine, and you try to work your way up to 2048. Next is War Dice. It's 44 megs by Huvada Kodu. Another Dice War clone. It's single screen. It's hard to see the unit values, but it's pretty fun. Next is Word Search by Word Loco. It's 19 megs. It's basically a word search game. It's simple, but if you like word searches, this is quite nice. And the last one is Yahtzee Classic by Loop Games. It's 64 megs. It's a nice version of Yahtzee that you can play versus a friend, solo, or against the computer. And that's it. Hopefully there's something in there that you never heard of that you'll like. That's it.